Hello, everybody. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and envies, to another episode of Warui Deshou's Stream of Thought, covering Vinland Saga. I am the subtle doctor, mildly annoyed, but mostly doing fine. And with me, as always, is, the hardest working man in pod business, Shadon.
Not going to be the case today, folks, because I had possibly, 3 hours of sleep last night, thanks to God knows what. I think my brain just decided to flip the bird at me. So the engine warning light is on in here, let's put it that way, and possibly also the oil change light as well. So please bear with me as I will muddle through this episode. I'll do my best.
Oh, I'm sure you will do quite fine. Of that, I have no doubt, and I think the listeners feel the same way. But I mentioned that I was mildly annoyed. Can I share with you why?
You certainly can.
Okay, so this is not related to Vinland. This is a mild tangent, but I promise it won't be long. Unless you have also things to add related to this. So,
oh, boy.
This is... so if you're a member of our Discord, you know that I have been, devouring A Song of Ice and Fire. The books.
Boy, here we go.
No. It's not what you. It's not what you think.
No,
it's not what you think.
It's not. I'm not thinking anything at this point. I just know that this is going to go places, and there's going to be discourse.
Yeah.
TM.
Okay. Well,
about this.
I don't know. This one might be uncontroversial. We'll see. But you will know that I have been eating it up like Ayla eats up soup in Chrono Trigger. Just tossing those huge bowls back and devouring those books.
You've been going through it like Forkel goes through beer and and brisket.
That's right. Pork and cow. But so I finished the third book, A Storm of Swords, and it was tremendous. No complaints. Really, it was a fabulous book. It's my favorite one of the three thus far. And then I started A Feast for Crows, book 4. And I'm annoyed. Okay? And not to do with anything with with
Can I just add that pregnant pause you threw in there before you said you started reading the book and then you said you had problems with it. Mm-hmm. I was like, that just spoke volumes to me.
Well, it's
Oh, that would go on.
Okay.
Elaborate.
Okay, so this is not to do with the content of the book. This is what you might all be thinking, some sort of story beat or a lack of a character or something like that. No. This is all down to the fucking audiobooks. And so I am reading this via audiobook. Mm-hmm. And I've had the same narrator all the way through, Warui Deshou. He's done a marvelous job through the first 3 books. I spent over 100 hours with this man. He's telling me the story, giving me the voices. This been very consistently strong throughout. And then I get to Feast for Crows, narrated also by Warui Deshou.
Uh-oh.
But suddenly, he's pronouncing names differently. That again, for 100 hours, he's pronounced one way. Catelyn Stark, and now all of a sudden it's Caitlin. Why? And that's not the only one, okay? Gilly has become Jilly. Brienne, he goes back and forth between Brienne and Brienne.
Does he get potato mixed up with potato?
I mean, that would at least be understandable. This is just the pronunciations, and he's changing the voices that he's done for 100 hours, Shadon. 100 hours of the same voices for these characters.
Well, I do guess it would be quite annoying if someone did suddenly change their voice unprompted after so long spent with them discussing things over an oral medium, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I entirely know what you mean.
And I promise, by the way, not to use that voice again for the remainder of this podcast. I get to uncork it just once per evening. Otherwise, after that point, my restraining order, kicks in and I get taken back to prison. So that's the one time you get, folks. I'm very sorry you had to hear it all.
We don't want that to happen. We want you to stay right here. But so I don't know if this is something he's been told to do or that he's just forgetting, because every great once in a while, when he's doing a character, he'll slip back into the old voice. But then it'll recover.
Well, that's when the person holding, the Glock 9mm for his head just looks away for 2 seconds.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't do these voices anymore, man. You have to change. I don't know why. It's not like there's been like a time skip. Like things are pretty close to like chronologically the end of the last book. It's just not like been this massive. I don't know. It just fucking annoyed me.
I have to say though, Doc, like I understand your annoyance because it's say something you're now very intimately familiar with. But when you were leading up to that point where you revealed that it was still him doing it, I thought, oh, he's going to say someone else is doing it. Well, that's obviously not the case. But I'm just going to say it could be much, much, much worse. You could have had him swapped out for, dare I say it, Ben Shapiro. You imagine him narrating this.
Jesus Christ.
Be careful what you wish for. Be grateful for what you have.
Oh, I can imagine like Stephen Molyneux. Like, I feel like he's got the sort of voice that people will be like, oh yeah, let's bring him in. And he'd sort of talk about Western civilization and, the fall of the Roman Empire and what have you. Like... Yeah,
I mean, that would just make me want to take a set of shears to both my fingers and my nose and my ears if you do it to myself. I wouldn't need an angry Welshman to do it to me.
Oh man, you are a master of segues, because the horrible things that you just referenced are exactly what we'll be talking about right after this.
I mean, Askeladd, he followed up Knut's cooking lesson with his own, where he really did show, that to make an omelette, you have to break a few eggs, or specifically one cone-head-shaped one. And this time we get his lesson in manicuring. It's great.
Content warning for this Vinland Saga. Which
I was gonna say it's a bit late for that.
Which I mean,
a concept warning for this show that's featured like people being decapitated en masse because Thorkel is basically the Viking equivalent of the Doomslayer.
But even given all that, right. There is still like a level like that this episode ratchets it up to. Particularly with torture, like, there's the sort of different kind of flavor of content warning for just like graphic violence, and then there's the whole torture stuff, which is like a new thing.
Yeah, this little piggy had roast beef. This little piggy went to market.
I had to look away. Like, I couldn't watch it happen. And I almost looked away with the nose, but thankfully they didn't go through with it. But there's no need for us to get into a lot of detail with it. If you watch the episode, you know what happened. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't and want to skip those parts, feel free to skip them.
It wasn't quite penguin drum sculpting, shall we say, but it was almost in the same ballpark for unpleasantness.
I mean, were you thinking about Stuck in the Middle with You? Did that start playing in your head? Did you see Mr. Blonde sidling up to...
If I may point out, I'm going to just reveal a little factoid for you folks. I kind of cheat by having the episode replaying as I do the podcast just on silent. So that way I can just, keep it fresh in my mind. You are literally describing that as I am watching that very scene right now. So naturally, of course, it is playing in my head while this is happening. That could not have been more perfectly timed.
Yeah.
Oh, God. But then again, you were thinking it more in the context of, if I'm not mistaken, Reservoir Dogs.
Indeed. Mm-hmm. That is what I was referencing.
Is Askeladd Mr. White? That might be a poll question for later.
That's a good one. I like that poll question. So is Mr. White Harvey Keitel?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, he's probably one of the ones stuck in the room for sure. Yes, I would think so. But okay,
does that make Bond Steve Buscemi? I'd be okay with Steve Buscemi to be honest for some reason. I don't know.
I could get down for that for sure.
Steve Buscemi's a good guy. Anyway, let's crack on and talk about the actual episode.
I don't know if I'm going robotic on your end, but on my end and for the stream, you're breaking up a little bit. So I'm going to try to.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll call you back. Yeah, let me call you back. Got the video down, and now I am recalling.
All right.
Okay.
So I
You're
think
back.
Doc has reinstalled his firmware so that way he doesn't sound like the actual Terminator that he is. Living tissue over a metal endoskeleton.
I wish I could hear it. Uh, but unfortunately, I can't hear the roboticisms. I can only hear yours. And
Oh, I've always been a robot. I've never pretended to be anything else.
um, well, there's a good in your image. It's like a hostage video. Occasionally just like breaking up, and you'll stay in the same position, and I'll be hearing your audio, but you won't be moving. It's a whole thing. All right. So Vinland Saga. This is what we're here to talk about primarily. But first, before we get into episode 16, History of Beasts, it would behoove us to check the polls from last week. And
It certainly would. So I have
Syria.
I have them up here. So these polls have been done by Doc. So obviously they're not going to be, the cursed pagan voodoo variety that I've previously dished out. It might be a bit more wholesome this time. So without further ado, episode 15, poll 1. How do you feel about the Ragnar diet? And 50% said, love it, need those veggie. 23% said, it's best but no like it. And 27% said, no, it's the Chisas answer there, to be quite honest. And so, yeah, apparently we've got more vegetarians in the audience than I expected. Hey, fair play to you. Fair play. I respect that. I will freely admit that I went for the meat option. And yes, you can indeed quote me out of context on that. Make yourself a little sound clip on that.
Well, the Thorkel diet is an omnivorous one because I'm not sorry, not Thorkel. I mean Ragnar. The Ragnar diet is an omnivorous.
Well,
one.
I was going to say, Thorkel's, I would argue, is still
He's a carnivorous.
Because he would just devour everything inside.
He would.
It's, yeah,
would.
like if he asks, you ask, say, do you want a hamburger? He'd say, no, I'll just have the cow.
Yes, I'll have it raw. Just skewer
Yep.
it for me. But no, Ragnar was he liked the meat well enough, but he just understood the importance of pairing it with a good vegetable. He did. Ragnar liked the meat. It's a thing. It's true. I could tell just by looking at him. I have that Askeladd talent.
I am such a juvenile prick. I'm so sorry. All right, okay. So moving on.
We invite that kind of humor. It's good.
We do. So in the next question. Who wins a drinking contest between Thorkel and Bjorn? 60% said Thorkel, only 4% said Bjorn, and 36% said draw and they become best friends forever. I went for Thorkel myself because I get the feeling like the man is just invulnerable to booze. Like, imagine like if you're drawing up a D&D character and you give them a talent or a feat that makes them immune to poison. That's Thorkel's, like, one of his feats there. Completely invulnerable to booze, the effects thereof, and hangovers.
It's true. Yeah, write that on his magic card.
And episode 15, poll 3, which actually, believe it or not, has only 4 minutes left to go, but we might as well close it now. Did you see it coming that Ragnar was a bad motherfucker? And 45% said hell no, and 55% said hell yeah. So,
how did they see it coming? I guess maybe they read the manga, but that one really got me off guard that he was such a cool dude. I thought for sure he would, I don't know, maybe not be a coward, but I just didn't know he had it in him to be such a badass.
Ragnar had his moments, certainly. But, well, rest in peace. Ragnar in peace, as they say.
Ragnar in peace. Go to the land in the sky with all the deer, rabbit, and all the vegetables.
Yep, where he finally doesn't have a cone head anymore because he gets his hair back.
Ragnar with the full head of hair in the afterlife. Oh my! Wouldn't recognize him.
It's all I've ever wanted.
Do you feel seen by Ragnar now, by the show?
Well, considering he dies prematurely, I hope not.
Well, no, yeah, that's a con, I think, on the list.
Yeah, also being an overly coddling, overly protective father figure. I don't know. I think all that Ragnar really had going for him was like one amazing O-face expression he had.
He did have a really good.
He had a good heart, but he was the victim of hubris. Like the best of intentions and all that. Unfortunately, blinding him to the reality before him. But well, never mind. Well. Anyway, thank you very much to everyone who took part in the polls. There will be more coming up later as we progress through the stream, so do check out our Twitter at Warui Deshou. We'll have some jokey ones, some serious ones, and maybe some a little bit in between. And probably ones in which, once again, everyone will think that I'm talking out my ass and I'm some sort of evil heretic. But hey, I stick to my guns on this stuff. So, over to you, Doc. Let's talk about the episode.
All right. Enough about gun sticking. Let's talk about History of Beast. Kedamono no... how do you... Rekishi? Is it just Rekishi? Kedamono no Rekishi?
I thought it was by its alternative title, Kimono Friends.
That. Yes. Kedamono no Rekishi.
Did you just have like a mild aneurysm when you heard that? I felt like I broke you then saying that.
Oh, that was one of those ones I never could get into, even though people were very hyped for it. And I understand why. I've heard about why it's good. It just I just didn't stick with it. But
I never watched it myself, so I can offer no judgment. I only know that it became more famous because of the whole penguin shit. But we'll not get too tangentially distracted about that, right. As otherwise would like to talk about penguins. Anyway, onwards with the episode.
Okay, so once again this week, I'm a little bit stymied as far as the creatives. I mean, we got the information from Wikipedia. The writing duo remains the same as it always has. The director is Takashi Ando. However, when I look up on MAL and Anime News Network, I've got records for Takeshi Ando, right, but not Takashi Ando.
So in other words, this was all Wikipedia article was written by the guy who did the narration of the audiobook you listened to before. He's getting names mixed up. Oh, I feel quite proud
definitely.
of that.
Definitely. That's a circular storytelling, the continuity.
Maybe I'm more awake than I realized, so I give myself credit for.
Your third eye is opening. But and this person has done some interesting stuff, but I just don't think, I don't know. I have no idea if there's just a typo on Wikipedia or if they're different people and one doesn't have a CV
but what if he was just named Jim?
That'd be good. I would appreciate that. More Japanese people call yourselves Jim. No, okay, so that out of the way now. Andy in chat, actually, let's address what he's saying. So, random thought, there was slow, soft piano playing during the scene when Canute gets slapped. Bright slapped, might I add.
It wasn't the backhand though, which surprised me.
That's true. I guess it can't be.
I did think Vasklad would do that, but no, he was actually. Then again, maybe as we'll get to, maybe that just is a symbol of how he views Canute.
So the same song is first played during Thor's famous "You Have No Enemies" lesson to Thorfinn. Musical motifs. I did notice the soundtrack actually more this episode than I have.
Yeah, it was some good. There was some very strong music in this one. Some very strong pieces there.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up, Andy, because it is worth mentioning about this episode. And I guess we have is that like a motif when fathers teach their sons hard lessons? I don't know. Because it is interesting how those two are linked, and they're not dissimilar, those scenes. Not entirely dissimilar, I would argue. But anyway. So summary. The summary of the History of Beast. The high points. The episode opens with Canute mourning Ragnar. But of course, we don't have time in this universe to mourn our dead, to grieve. We have to be moving on because there's danger.
But we do have time to lie out of our teeth because that's what Asgard's doing here. And in my headcanon, I can only imagine him expanding on this in various ways, such as jokingly, saying that, it was actually a blue-colored spearman with a crimson spear, named Kukulane, I believe his name was. Bit of a weirdo.
Right.
Or alternatively, just him joking, Ragnar also said you were a wheezy little shit stain and you wish, you'd been thrown off a boat when you were younger. I mean, that's just Askeladd at this point. Like, his cruelty, like, when he exercises it, it is, like, full bore, as we will see later on.
He's a cold
when
man.
When he decides to open his own manicure business.
So Bjorn and Askeladd have this conversation about, needing to go. Bjorn is expressing doubt about whether killing Ragnar was the best thing or not. And, Askeladd says Ragnar made Canute weak. Bjorn, in a point that we've brought up before, says, like, well, it's a good thing that he, him being weak will be fine, because then you could control him and you could use him to attain more power. And Askeladd has a really interesting reply. Like, he's actually interested in making Canute into a worthy lord, someone who people would want to follow. And so he sort of tells Bjorn he's joking, but then it's pretty clear that he's not joking, I think. And yeah, it's so interesting that kind of, it's almost like they're sort of the two different sides of the political battle back in Denmark. So yeah, like, because Harold, I guess the people that support Harold, the reason they would support him is they would say, like, he's worthy of our support.
He's an actual warrior. He can fight. And
Askeladd wants to make Canute into that, which is like, good luck, buddy. I mean,
yeah. Well, I just imagine Askeladd just rolling up his sleeves like this. Like, getting ready to put some real graft in on this one.
Yeah.
Shit. I hope he's got a project plan and everything. You got whiteboards. Have you got whiteboards, Askeladd, with detailed plans?
You just see, like, people, like, it's playing that music from Evangelion and the one that's also in Shin Godzilla.
Yeah.
When they lay out the tables and like throw down their laptops and build up the war room.
Can you imagine that being done as a montage? Like, where there's no dialogue and it's just Askeladd just pointing to a blackboard and Bjorn just there taking notes. and then Askeladd's testing later, and all Bjorn can do is just draw mushrooms on the blackboard.
Why is your pie chart shaped like a mushroom, Bjorn? Focus.
Because it's mushroom pie.
Yeah, no, Andy, for sure. Like, Harold, definitely a typical warrior, and I mean, maybe Askeladd doesn't think he can make Canute into a warrior, but he wants him to be someone that men choose to follow on their own because he's a great lord. And I'm just kind of assuming that warrior would be the fastest line between point A and point B there.
Well, it definitely applies to one character that we see again later in this episode, but I'll elaborate on that later.
Okay. And enjoy your dinner, Dana. We'll try not to get too graphic on the description.
We'll try and actually hold off from discussing the manicure scene as long as we possibly can, so that way you get eaten.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you're not having KFC, because the very idea of it being finger licking good is the worst thing you could say about it.
Yeah. Oh my. Okay. So,
yeah.
Well,
sorry.
We kind of have to come onto that scene now, but
oh shit.
But we don't have to talk about the so Askeladd and Bjorn move on from this discussion to this captive that his men have. They have an English soldier being held captive, and they're trying to get some information from him. Hey, where are your boys? How many are there? When are they going to get here? And he won't tell them.
What is the capacity of an unladen swallow?
Yeah, African or European.
Yeah.
And so he is basically just like, God sees you, God judges you, you're evil, fuck you. And
bad Askeladd, bad.
Yeah. And he has some choice things to say about the Danes, and a polite Danish question. He has some choice things to say about the Danes being beasts, savages. And then Askeladd is just like, you know what? I'm going to give you a history lesson, my friend. Listen. And then he goes on to, as I mentioned in our Discord, elucidate like front and center what I've been talking about for a few weeks, what I think the show's been alluding to. And you've talked about how this might apply to Vinland, the place. But Askeladd basically gives him this lesson that is like, hey, we're taking the land from you, but you took the land from someone else, and they took the land from someone else. And that whatever kind of good things you want to say about your civilization, people that it keeps safer or advances it makes technologically, it's always based on the original sin and its foundation. There's always blood in the foundation of the city because the land always has to be taken. And
invoking the ancient, right and tradition of because I said so.
Yeah, right. And so, like, it's an interesting question, I guess, to think about, like, societies and their legitimacy, despite the fact that they are based on really kind of a crime, always. It's an interesting thing to think about. And I think, like, this point in the episode, I think that this is an issue that is easy to kind of be like, whatever. Or, of course I know that. Because we learn about it in history books. And it's an abstract idea. But it applies to all of us. Like, all of us are participating in this sort of circle. Because we're all taking benefit from, like, society, all the benefits and the safety and everything that affords. And those are great. I'm happy I have them. But at the same time, I know that they are based on, like, this crime at the heart of them, this awful, heinous act. And this is the nature of all civilizations. And it's like a thing to grapple with. I don't think it's a thing just to gloss over.
Yeah. Kids, the word of the day, colonialism.
Yeah, right.
Fucking great.
And during this scene, at one point, to illustrate the cyclical nature of all this, you have an owl eating the ear of a man, plucking it away and flying away. This is not the scene that the Lion King would use, but it is the circle of life kind of idea here of, like, even when you're dead, your body being used by nature and returning to it, and
cycles
all that kind of
again.
Thing. Yeah. So I thought that was good. Now that we're done with dinner, Dana, so the next scene, because the guy refuses to crack, Askeladd cracks him open in pretty heinous ways. And we'll move over that. Insert, all the barber jokes from before and the manicure jokes and all that stuff. But before he talks, before he is ended...
Before Askeladd plays the infamous kids game, Got Your Nose.
Right. Yes, before that happens. It's, the ear comes running up to camp. And by the way, why did the ear shave suddenly? Why does he have no mustache?
Because he didn't want to be the beard.
But, like, why all of a sudden? It's just weird that just a character has a mustache for his entire run, and then randomly in an episode it's just gone for no... It's, and it doesn't really mean anything. It's not like, cutting your hair to, like, symbolize a new beginning or whatever. It's just a mustache.
Look, right, even in dire straits as Askeladd and his men are, you've still got to look your best. Come on, man. You got to put up or shut up on this show. You got to keep yourself well groomed.
You want to help the morale of all the other soldiers?
Or maybe that, or maybe that, or the ear was auditioning for an Old Spice advert. I don't know.
Let's hope so. So the ear is the bearer of bad news as usual, I think. Thorkel Thorkel is coming. And Shadon, have you seen The Wire?
I have not, but
Okay.
go on.
Well, there's a tremendous character in The Wire called Omar. And I've posted in our Discord a clip of this. Like, basically, whenever Omar comes around the neighborhood, everyone is like, oh shit, Omar's coming. And they run indoors, and the neighborhood becomes a ghost town. because Omar is just a bad motherfucker.
You know what I love about this scene, though, where it isn't the ear like who announces that Thorkel is coming. It's actually the British guy. And this, funnily enough, like is the trigger point for what I believe to be the beginning of the end for Askeladd's like little entourage here, or the group cohesion thereof. Now, whether or not he knows it's Thorkel or not doesn't matter at this point, because obviously all of the Danes here, they know who Thorkel is. They know he's a bad motherfucker. They know that he is basically Vinland Saga's equivalent of John Matrix from Commando. You know, a man who's a brick shithouse, 7 feet tall, weighs 400 pounds of solid muscle, and he will kill a man with his bare hands. So yeah, they're all screwed, or at least even they think they're screwed.
Yeah.
But what I find hilarious about this is after everyone starts losing their shit because all like the rumor spreads like wildfire that Thorkel is coming, we cut to Thorkel himself, and he's got a fucking cold. He just sneezes. I like scourge of the Viking realms, decimator of men and women and children alike.
Grown men like are quaking.
Impossible to defeat force of nature. Thorkel. He has the sniffles.
Oh man, it will make a good Kleenex advert. It really would. But yeah, he's on his way, and he tells his boys not to kill Thorfinn and not to kill the prince. Thorfinn is his playmate. What was that?
I'm very glad that it's been established before, like, you know, like what that might mean, because otherwise, Jesus Christ, Thorkel, come on, man, don't put it in such terms.
Yes, that makes me think of. I only think of GoBots when I hear.
But then again, I have said that Thorkel is basically a child before, so I suppose the language fits.
It does. It fits. So once, of course, the group learns that, Askeladd says, "Well, guess what? Time to haul ass." But Canute is, you know, mad that he has to leave. Doesn't want to leave. Wants to mourn.
Give Ragnar a proper burial.
All that stuff. And Askeladd, the cold bastard, as we have pointed out, just slaps him across the face and gives him this look. That's like, look, he's not coming back, kid, no matter how many times you call for him. And in that look, you can tell Canute, the realization washes over him. This is the person that killed him.
I'm actually going to put that to a poll just this second. Let's see if you at home agree that Canute already knows or not. But even if you don't, just bear in mind that particular moment of body language, because I'm going to address that later in a talk point, because this episode, that's one of its key strengths, actually, in how it handles body language of a lot of characters, but we'll save that for later.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to type up a poll, and Doc's going to keep talking.
Yeah. And when Canute uses when he refers to Askeladd at that point, he says, you know, Kisama, which is a pretty disrespectful way to refer to someone. So again, it makes me think like he knows
his tone and mannerisms in that second actually to me remind me a lot of Thorfinn.
Yeah. I think he believes, I should say. Maybe he doesn't know, but because it's true, we say he knows. But he believes. You know, it turns out that Askeladd, as you said, his how did you put it? That the cohesion he had among his troops, the loyalty that they bore him when things were going well, when the sun was shining, that is fading, and a lot of his men are wanting to desert, and they actually find 2 of them hiding in the hay and throw them down before Askeladd and be like, "Look, deserters." And you think, oh, well, they're going to die, but Askeladd spares them, uses this as an opportunity to make a speech, right? Saying, like, look, if you want a dessert, fine, go ahead, go to the other side. I don't care. But follow me. If you want to follow me, if you want to live, follow me, and we'll march, and we'll keep marching, and we'll lose Thorkel.
Askeladd actually has the right idea with this, because we, of course, learn in a little bit what Thorkel does to the people who do decide to come, waving the white flag to him.
Yeah, the next line I have in my notes is gore and squishy flesh, because it's just lots of squishy sounds and hard cutting noises, and limbs and blood flying through the air as Thorkel, the human blender, speeds through the scene, mowing down all before him. And he does not care that they are deserters. Some people are just like, we're not like Askeladd. We think you're the greatest. And no, they get cut up too. And
Thorkel ain't interesting cows or traitors,
And then we come to this really interesting scene where the Askeladd's group crosses a bridge, and they want to cut it down to delay Thorkel, to delay their pursuers. Turns out the river is actually not that deep, and they could cross on foot, so the delay will be minor, but Askeladd wants to do it anyway. And during this scene, the two brothers in arms, the two people that were arguing with the priests, the Smash Brothers, Bash Brothers, whatever.
When the Bash Brothers contestants on Wacky Races, or am I misremembering?
I think the Bash Brothers were on. I know them from Mighty Ducks. They could have also been in Wacky Races. I don't know. I don't think anyone has has trademarked the Bash Brothers yet. But they are one of them. I don't know their names, but the bigger lad is basically like, look, dude, Askeladd is done. All we gotta do is take the prince to Thorkel, you and me, get on his good side. We're in. Askeladd's cool, but his luck is running out. I just don't want to be. I don't want to die, and you don't want to die. And so the other guy's sort of hesitant, but he ends up agreeing. Askeladd, of course, sees this because they're right under the fucking bridge, plotting. Yeah. And Askeladd is on top of the hill, and he's like, okay. Thorfinn, Bjorn.
I mean, just to point something out, right? I know that these guys are clearly in a desperate situation, but it might behoove them not to be talking out in the open when Askeladd is known to have a guy who, literally is called the Ear. Nice one, dipshits.
Good going. Smart.
Didn't think that one through.
No.
Now, granted, Askeladd clocks them anyway because he's just got that intuition about him. But I mean, if it turns out we've got a guy whose literally only job is to sense, and hear the movement of enemy troops from across great distances, maybe just be passing notes around like it's class. Just saying.
Well, maybe he's the equivalent of nearsighted, but with his ears. He can hear far away, but he can't really hear close by. Maybe that's what they're banking on.
I really, really wish I had that talent. It would be great for me to deal with people at work. Sorry, what? Can you just go a bit further away? Yeah, keep going. That's great. Okay, you're on the opposite side of the room now.
Now you tell me what you need.
Now we're good.
But yeah, Askeladd sees this, and he sees actually that a lot of people are bearing these sentiments. And, he calls over Bjorn and Thorfinn and says, look, move the prince and you two guard him because I can see. I can tell. I have a talent. He says, I have a special talent for looking at people's faces and judging their characters. So he feels like he can just look at people and see whether or not they're loyal or disloyal, and can see whether or not his people are going to betray him. And they cut the bridge down. The bridge collapses, and
symbolism.
Yeah, I know. I can't decide whether I want to talk about it now or later. But
just to answer your question, Dana, They probably don't, to be quite honest, but I still think they probably should have put two and two together and thought, bad idea, perhaps? Maybe we should just do gestures. Like, like point to Asgard and then go like that.
Yeah, that's definitely would work for sure. Let's make the stabbing motion. No. Like do the noose and then point to Askeladd. Yeah, that would
I was going
be
to do it.
very
I could think of a couple of the gestures as well, but they're probably not appropriate right now. So I'll leave that to your imagination.
Yeah. So, well, once the bridge is cut down, they start to head out, but okay, so you got this idea I wanted to bring up, Askeladd running out of luck, right? That is what they say is happening. And there is a tiff because the ear is like, yo, it's Thorkel. Thorkel is here, right here. And then Thorkel makes a human kebab out of...
Oh my god. Like, I joked before about, like, a Lancer-class servant being involved in this show, but we literally just had that happen. And you're right, I thought the same thing. I was like, this man has just literally invented the kebab.
Yes.
Granted, I hope he doesn't eat any of them. Also, like, come on, guys, don't line up in a row here. You've seen what this man is capable of.
Indeed, you have. And so, the kebab from Thorkel, and it goes all the way across the ditch, right? That he doesn't even have to cross the bridge to take out 4 guys. And Askeladd is like, ignore this. Let's just walk.
Ignore this. Ignore this.
I know. He really is like, pay no heed to the human kebab over here. We're just going to keep forward motion going.
I remember that scene from The Naked Gun where Leslie Nielsen's character is outside the house and say, please disperse, there's nothing to see here, as a tank just drives through it.
Totally.
But again, that's Askeladd's thing this episode. He just downplays everything.
Yeah.
It's like, butter wouldn't melt. Butter wouldn't fucking melt on that, man, I tell you.
A lot of, like, sighing and rolling his eyes and going, but like, so yeah, he's basically like, we just need to keep moving. And finally, Big Jojo Bro kicks snow at him, which is the funniest thing. Like a sign of disrespect. Like, he didn't spit at him, he didn't curse him, he just kicked snow at him. It's just like, no, we're not gonna go. All you say is march, 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 but it ain't happening. And there's no way. And Askeladd's like, oh, you moron. Look, if they leave their supplies on the other side of the river, they can only follow us for a day. I don't know how much that is BS or what, but...
Well, to be fair to Asgard, he probably figures Thorkel for being a big eater.
Exactly.
He knows. He knows that they... Like, if Thorkel wasn't coming with them, they could probably march much longer, but that man is just, like, constantly down to pain. Joke as I might, like, you hear about, like, bodybuilders, like, I think, for example, like, Hugh Jackman, when he was training to be Wolverine, like, as in physically training, like, he was, like, eating something like 60 raw chicken breasts a day or something insane like that to build up his physique. Yeah. And you look at Thorkel, and he looks like he's at least 9 foot tall, and, it's probably like 90% muscle by weight, some shit like that. Like, the man is literally beefcake. Like, totally. that is probably what Thorkel translates from. So, joke as I might, like, he literally probably does need that much just to sustain himself.
Protein and orange soda.
He's just getting a giant chicken and just eating it all in one. That's his chicken nuggets, by the way, just the whole chicken.
Popeye's bringing back the spicy chicken sandwich. That's for Thorkel. Just that they I think it's coming back. I don't know. These things pop up on my Google or on my Twitter trending. It's trending that Popeye's spicy chicken sandwich is returning.
2 bears a day. well put, Andy. 2 bears a day.
So, I've never had this Popeye spicy chicken. Please let me know if it's any good. And then I'll just be jealous of it because fried chicken is not a thing that I eat very much these days. Askeladd gets snow kicked at him, and he tries to tell them, "Hey, we need to just go," and they say, "No, actually, we're revolting," and they surround. But basically, his entire squad, except for Thorfinn and Bjorn, surround them. And like, I find this incredibly like ironic and interesting, Shadon, because I would say the first person to doubt Askeladd was Bjorn. Like, he's been the guy expressing reservations about his plans since way before anyone said your luck has run out. But he still kept the faith, right? He still remained loyal to Askeladd despite having doubts. And, you know, you were talking about the other week a part of faith, like true faith, being doubt, misgivings, working through it in your head. And funnily enough, like, Bjorn is the one to remain. And the people that were blindly following Askeladd, like, because everything is rosy and bling. They don't
have, they're lacking perspective.
Yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
That it wasn't like rooted in anything to do with like Askeladd. It was like the good times are rolling, so we will remain here. But now they're off, and that's the episode pretty much. Is when we're left totally on a cliffhanger, because how are Bjorn and the prince Canute and Thorfinn gonna get free here?
I mean,
what is Thorkell gonna do?
I mean, take Thorfinn, for example. He wants to kill Askeladd himself, of course, but he's operating under this framework where he wants to do it inside this honorable duel, rather than, you know, the thing I've said before, which is to stick him in his sleep.
Right.
But, I mean, this is why, this is why I'm the, the dark horse of this podcast, because I'm the one always suggesting the renegade option. But like, I wonder to myself, like, if Thorfinn would actually then jump to his defense, like, no one gets to kill him but me, eventually. Maybe. It's been a while. I'm working on it.
Well, before we get into talking points, I, Shadon, need to take a small break. Do you want to stay on camera and answer questions or whatever and entertain, or do you want to just go off the air for a bit?
I will hold the fort, my friend. You go take your small break.
I will be back momentarily.
Go for it. So, while Doc is away, I'm going to just lead into one of my talking points here, which is actually the one about body language that I mentioned before, because this is just not really so much of a thematic discussion, this particular part. It's more just me going on about technical elements I saw in this episode. Like, because I've kind of criticized Vinland Saga a couple of times before now on, certain letdowns it's had on its animation side of things. For example, like background characters being statically animated or just plain flat. Like, that happens a couple of times in this episode, like when they're crossing the bridge, you get a panning shot going left to right, but they're not moving. And again, like, animation is difficult work for little money, so I'm really not so inclined to jump on people's backs too hard when they are cutting corners a little bit. Unless you're making a Keegan, in which case you can go fuck yourself. But let's talk about body language. So let's start with the very beginning of the episode when Canute sees Ragnar's dead body. Now, after like a little bit of discussion all around talk from Askeladd, where he reveals what he says is the truth anyway, Canute falls back to the earth, like he falls on his backside in shock and grief. And I thought that was a really, really naturalistic response to seeing like the death of a loved one that close to you. It was conveyed quite well. And then we get various close-up shots, both of like Askeladd and Canute's eyes. So Askeladd, these close-ups here of his eyes, they're particularly present when he's torturing the English captain. And that shows his like cold demeanor, like that you can see this man up close, but there's no humanity in him anymore. Not for probably a couple of years at this point. Whereas when we see it with Canute, we can see that he's becoming hard in a similar way. There's nothing in those eyes anymore. There's no spark, no humanity. Like, Askeladd's lessons are taking root, whether Canute realizes it or not, whether Askeladd realizes it or not. But yeah, body language is quite important in this episode. Also, another nice little moment I liked, when the ear runs up and says, Askeladd, Askeladd. Like, Askeladd looks at him like, oh, shit. Without saying that out loud, of course. But he immediately intuits from the ear's like behavior way he runs up all exasperated that the enemy is here, he's not, he doesn't simply go, oh my god, like, is something wrong? He already can, he's smart enough to recognize what that it means when he's coming to do that. So I really like that the characters behave in these very naturalistic ways, and that they have the portrayed intelligence to in turn react to other characters' bodily language and intuit things from that. So good shit to the, I presume this is put on the mangaka's part, but if nothing else, at least good shit to Witch Studio for preserving that from from the manga to the anime, where it's not just about simply characters like looking straight at the camera and talking at each other, but there is actual physical interaction, be it either direct, such as when, Askeladd pats Bjorn on the shoulder, or, for example, as I mentioned, that scene with the ear, where you can see from his body language and the fact that he looks like he's just literally shat himself, that, oh yeah, they're all here. And he can immediately say, all right, I know they're all here. How many we got? So just a small quick shout out to the good way that the characters emote in this episode. There's a lot of good stuff here, and it's always worth noticing when we have it. I was just basically elaborating on the various body language. Canute falling over when he sees Ragnar, Ragnar's corpse. When, for example, we see Askeladd up close in his eyes and they're all cold and dead, and we get a similar thing with Canute later, where we've got Canute up close, that kind of thing. And then also the gasping reactions that he has, various moments, like a lot of characters' understanding is communicated to us and indeed to each other through body language. And as you can see from, if you're watching this on video right now, look at me, I'm gesticulating all the time, because that's how we communicate. It feels very naturalistic. So good shit to the show for doing that. As opposed to doing something like this, where I will talk to you straight at the camera, like this, for 20 minutes straight. Man, I'm getting flashbacks to some of the other shows I've seen that I just would prefer not to think about. Look at you, Akiken. I don't care. I don't care how it's pronounced. Fuck it. Anyway, let's talk about the bridge. The bridge over the river. Why did we get here? Why did we come here? This is a bad idea. Whoa, Doc, you're muted.
Damn it. Thank you.
All right, so I would very much like to just ask if there's anyone in the audience who is a lip reader, or if you want to, I will put an open challenge to you. If you can, clip this video out, you can put whatever words you want over Doc now, and it's going to be great.
Oh, still amateur hour over here. All right.
Well, we are Warui Deshou is probably bad.
Yep. There's the name. You know what it means.
Don't make me tap the sign.
All right. Let me restate what I was going to say. I don't know if we were saying anything about your point, but the bridge. We're going to talk about the bridge, and I think that it is a layered scene. There's a lot to it. I think there's more than kind of one. How do I say, it's a symbolism, but you could kind of fit so many things on there that it represents. It's doing a lot of heavy lifting symbolically. The whole bridge.
I've just had a random thought.
Okay.
So you said earlier about the fact that tactically speaking, the bridge doesn't that much. Okay, yeah, it'll slow them down a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we're up to ankle depth on that river, Mm-hmm. So what? Right. If Thorkel was thirsty, he'd drink the entire river dry. It's that shallow.
Yeah, he could probably jump it. Just
so
super
conspiracy. go with me on this, right? Conspiracy theory here. What if Askeladd was destroying the bridge not because of anything to do with Thorkel whatsoever, but because he deliberately wanted to stoke that animosity amongst his men and try and use it as a way of rooting out potential traitors?
Do you think it might be counterproductive to like his safety?
Well, Askeladd is clearly the best warrior among them. So I don't think he would probably be too intimidated. But I mean, these guys respond to power in return, and martial prowess, which is something I'll get to in a bit when we talk about Thorkel.
Yeah,
but
it's a 30-1 scenario here. I feel like
I don't know. I reckon he could do all right. But yeah, but then again, even then though, could still be doing that plan, but just not anticipating that many people would turn against him. Could be a number of ways you read it.
Sure. I feel like he probably
he did say it was a gamble after all.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I think he probably understands the nature of mercenaries, having been one so long, and he knows, he probably knows that there are people that will turn on him if things get bad enough, and I'm sure he was anticipating something like this, but to do it deliberately for that reason seems like seems like shooting yourself in the foot when you really need to get away, right?
Or maybe he's deliberately trying to push his men away because he knows they're fighting a lost cause. Who can say? I mean, it is literally destroying a bridge, and that sets off the events in which his men turn on him. The symbolism is very key here and very apparent.
Yeah. This is the point that this is the bit about it that I kind of wanted to start off on, right? That that it sort of represents the fact that his men, they've been having misgivings for a couple episodes, but this episode they have reached the point of no return. There's no going back across the bridge. The bridge has been not burned, but it has been destroyed. And that is the point that they've come to with Askeladd. And why did they come to this point? I think that one of the things I find interesting in stories in general, and they kind of do it here, is prophecies, and whether or not they're self-fulfilling. And the idea of a prophecy not being foreknowledge but being kind of a what's the word I'm looking for, planting a powerful suggestion, and then it's sort of betting on the outcome that it will probably come to pass.
Self-fulfilling even a little bit.
Exactly. So this whole thing about go ahead.
Yeah, I cited a study once, I think, on this podcast. I don't know what it was. Might have been in Saranzamai, of the school kids who were told, oh, you're going to achieve X and Y throughout the year, but in reality, the experiment involved them being told completely randomly, what they were going to get, and lo and behold, they fell in line with those expectations. Kids who had previously been very smart suddenly underperformed, and vice versa.
Yeah. That's an interesting angle, because do you reach a point of no return with that kind of thing where you repeat it enough or you hear it enough that it becomes where perception becomes reality for you, and you just kind of believe it and buy into it, and that matters more than... I mean, there's no way to empirically confirm whether or not Askeladd has lost his luck. I mean, luck is not a quantifiable property. So
I wrote 2/3 of a book about it.
That's right. So literally, this is just all about perception, and yeah, I mean, this whole suggestion has fucked Askeladd, and I think his men kind of physically and mentally have reached this point of no return with him.
Yeah.
And because of this prophecy also, and that's taken root in their minds, and they can't kind of reverse course on it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, even as you say, you can't, of course, empirically quantify luck. But it doesn't. But funny enough, this is something I wrote about in the book that I'm currently trying my best to finish after all this torturous time. The point being is that it doesn't matter whether that's true or not; it's whether or not you believe it. So if you believe, and based on your own eyes and what you see, that, oh yeah, I've been with Askeladd all this time, and we've had some great rollicking times. We've had some fantastic pillage and plunder. You seen that gold? You seen those crowns? We've had them. We've had all the good times. And now look at us. We're just wallowing in the shit here, and we've got a man who might as well have literally come down from Asgard himself, to just wreck our shit.
Yeah.
Any surprise that you might think, no, I'm done. Like, I'm getting out while the going's good. It's an understandable sentiment, even though, regardless of whether or not I'm right on the idea that Askeladd did this to start, this little rebellion amongst his men deliberately. The pragmatic reality is that Thorkel's going to kill them all regardless.
Yes.
And indeed, the episode shows that to us deliberately. That's not an accident that we see that in the same episode, that he kills the people who try and betray Askeladd anyway. His plan might not work, but at least he's got a plan in mind. He's doing things. He's taking actions, to try and stay one step ahead of Thorkel. Working, though it's not. I mean, I don't see any of the other people offering a better suggestion other than, we go up to Thorkel and then we get turned into hamburger.
I know, yeah. We've seen how that works.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, and in chat, Dana has put forward, what if the bridge sort of symbolizes a sort of Rubicon crossing moment, point of no return for Canute also. It could do, the only reason that didn't, because I need to be beat over the head with the subtlety hammer a lot of times, but the show didn't really focus too much on kind of how he was feeling this episode. I mean, obviously we know, the scenes that we do get, it's pretty clear and we can easily interpret them. I guess I just don't. I just need to see more before I buy into that as a real watershed moment for him. He's already kind of come through. Well, I don't know. So he's come through that big slaughter in the village, but he had Ragnar there to kind of help buffer that. So maybe this will be the thing that shakes his faith, right? He'll have lost his guardian, and that might be the thing that causes.
Maybe that's why we had that scene of the priest who, after devouring the last bottle or last jug of booze, or keg rather, he then takes a look at Canute and he can see something's off.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't seem reasonable for me for a man of faith to look at another man of faith and say, "There's something poisonous running through your faith, man. I can see it."
Yeah,
whereas there's something poisonous running through me right now, and a keg of beer I drank. Woo-wee!
Yeah, I mean, and Canute, of course, is in the position where he doesn't really have to listen to anybody. He can kind of his own ideas of the faith. He can just have them and just be like, "Hey, priest." I mean, he's already basically just been like, "Hey, priest, how dare you? How dare you doubt the love of the Father?" So he probably wouldn't take what he had to say seriously. But I mean, clearly he needs to take a lesson here on this stuff. The dark downcast look, for sure. No, you're right. He has that. That is a thing. Yeah, and it's clearly he is grieving, and I have no idea how he's going to process it and what it's going to turn into. No idea.
I mean, something to mention as well, though, that in addition to a whole, does he know or not? Bear in mind, Canute's grown up in a household where the Red Wedding was basically something that was a Saturday morning repeat for most of his life.
Right.
So he's seen a lot of skullduggery. He's seen a lot of betrayal in the open, out in the open. So, I'm thinking he's pretty damn skippy that Askeladd's done it, despite any assertions to the contrary. Because he's not, he's perhaps a little naive, but he's, the things he's seen throughout his life of all the murder in his family's court. I mean, how can you not draw a parallel to that?
He may be a coward, but he's not an idiot.
Nope, certainly not. So man's gonna have his Rambo first, and he's gonna completely lose his shit.
Yes.
I was actually thinking more of Platoon. My apologies. Wrong Vietnam War flick there. Anyway, right. So talking point from me. So Askeladd makes a big deal in this episode of a man should follow his own leader, or like a leader of his choosing. Mm-hmm. And you know what's funny? His philosophy is proven greatly successful, not for himself, mind you, but for Thorkell. Mm-hmm. Because bear in mind what Thorkell's been doing all this time. He is a Dane, but he's fighting for the English and picking the fight he wants to fight because it suits his purposes best. And look at all the episodes we've seen Thorkell through thus far. He's living the life. He's living it up large. He's drinking well, he's eating well, his men think he's fucking awesome, and he's killing his way through people like it's just nothing. And he's enjoying every second of it. Like, he really is a kid at Christmas. So, ironically, Askeladd's philosophy, in the show, it's right. It just so happens to be on the opposite side. Whereas all the other characters we've seen that thus far who are following leaders, be it they, intentionally or no, are suffering for it. Like Thorkell. Sorry, not Thorkell. Yeah. Thorfinn. He technically is following a leader.
Yeah.
One that he otherwise wants dead. Mm-hmm. But he's constantly been caught in Askeladd's wake throughout the entire show's run. And, he's not in a good place for it. Canute has been kind of stuck with Ragnar his whole life, and sure, he clearly loved him and adored him. But Askeladd is kind of correct in that Ragnar coddled him too closely. Understandable reaction, all of that, is understandable behavior, but it hasn't left him ready for the world ahead. Mm-hmm. And all of Askeladd's men now have come, wise to that lesson that, oh God, we picked this leader to follow, and now it's falling apart for us. Whereas Askeladd only really answered to himself throughout much of the show's run until this point. He's done pretty well for himself also. So the irony is I think this show is trying to say that following a leader or a king or something like that is, just because it's expected isn't good enough. Mm-hmm. It needs to be for reasons that gel with your own viewpoint and your philosophy. Or failing that, you just simply go on your own way. You are your own, which I suspect is what's going to happen to Thorfinn eventually when, he becomes an explorer.
Right. And is Thorkell even following a leader? I feel like he's just kind of doing whatever he wants to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's following.
I'm sorry, you cut out for just a second. Can you repeat?
Thorkell is his own leader.
Yes.
That's the point.
Yes. No, completely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's again I don't know. You made a good distinction there. I think it's not the following, but it's the reasons for following that maybe are suspect, right? If you are just following just because it's what you've been told to do or whatever,
with religion.
Right. Not good enough to you could be led into something bad with that, but if you are following only because it's riches and good times and all that stuff, then eventually that will run out and bad things will happen. But if you're following for principles and you have a person that you're following or your own self that really embodies and lives out the principles that you care about, even if you meet a bad end, it will be what you want it to do, so
so basically, don't be a fanatic, don't be an unthinking, uncritical follower of someone or something,
right?
For all that Canute, for example, in the previous episode was don't you dare question the authority of God, as I elaborated on. Being critical of it doesn't automatically mean you give up on it. we ourselves, you and I, Doc, are critics of anime and other stuff, and we like a lot of shows that do have problems with them. But that doesn't mean, like it's a very binary, all or nothing kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can accept like frameworks, philosophical frameworks, religious frameworks, even though there are certain elements in that you don't agree with, and you can even be a little bit selective if you so wish.
Yeah, you might kind of have to
remain
sane.
I mean, do you want me to start quoting Leviticus then, the original Isekai script?
Right. So like, and even the priest in the show, like, he's still a believer, even though he has had this moment of doubt in the last episode. It's not like he's like, well, this whole God thing, taking off the cassock, it's over. Now that I've doubted, see you later. There's a warm tropical island calling my name, fellas. It's been real. I'm out.
I can just totally see him with like a little like pineapple, hold out pineapple cup with a little umbrella in it.
Completely. Yeah.
You would be okay with that.
It's time to go to a place where the wine floweth freely. So gonna get out of the cold. But no, he does not like abandon his faith just because he has some doubt. So we don't even have to like necessarily reach outside of the show to illustrate that, the point that you were making.
Yeah, and on top of that, I should mention as well just something that Andy pointed out in chat earlier, which is the Haskell. He ain't no hypocrite about it. He lets he says to him, hey, you know what? You can leave. Off you go. Don't it's been fun and all that. Don't forget to write. Hit me up on Facebook and all that. But he still allows them to do that. They just ultimately decide to take it to the next level and be like, well, we will after we finish, sticking you with a couple of swords.
Yeah, we're gonna take the prince off your hands.
Yep.
I love that Askeladd is like, well then, I guess we see things differently. Well, goodbye. I've got somewhere to be.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
I've got an appointment, and to the pub, I'm having a couple of pints with friends here. I'd really love to stop and chat, but gotta be going. By the way, just as an aside, when they say we're gonna everyone's treating Canute, I basically think Canute at this point has been turned into Penelope Pitstop, where he's just constantly being kidnapped or being stolen away.
Yeah,
I'm surprised that Askeladd hasn't tied him to railroad tracks yet. And, well, of course, no railroads back in those times just yet. But he totally would have done that if he had the opportunity.
Yeah, put him on the horse road or dropped him in the path of a ship. So the other big talking points I have, we actually have kind of gone over. We talked about the bridge. We talked about property is theft, right? We talked about the original sin of civilization, and we have been talking about that. So we don't have to belabor that. We talked about the cyclical nature of it, right? The owl, and munching on the human. And that kind of scene reinforcing the whole history as cycle, history as the repeated crime of human against human. And that was kind of all I wanted to say about the episode, all I had anyway, unless you have more stuff, and I will respond to it.
Not particularly, other than just to restate, the things again now, things are picking up, but it continues to be consistent with its themes and motifs, that of, cycles, history of peace itself, man's humanity to man, that for all Askeladd, says, oh, look, you people came here, you did this shit to the Celts, which, by the way, the Celts, I believe, would be his ancestral people on his mother's side, so he probably feels a bit personal about that particular point. He himself is not acting any better. You'd think that for all that he clearly finds that stuff distasteful, the protests of, hey, we were here first, when in reality only the Celts were. He's not really, being the better man, so to speak.
Yeah.
And yet the show doesn't frame this as a good thing, because this episode is also very keen to re-highlight Askeladd's cruelty. I don't think there's apart from when he's talking to Bjorn and his own men, we've got the scenes with Canute where he lies through his teeth about the way in which Ragnar died, to the point, where he decides to do the manicuring, to the point where he decides to slap Canute, treating him like a girl. I mean, I would say that, in that, like, if you slap someone like that, I think that might be a physical assault that you might say for a woman in that kind of misogynistic kind of way. So I think it very clearly puts, like, what Askeladd thinks of Knut right there. Like, you're just a wuss. You're not a man. You're not, maybe you might be someday after a bit of, shaping up. But at the moment, you're just pathetic. And the irony is, like, also, like, Knut's whole problem is that they didn't get the chance to bury Ragnar. Here's the thing. I can't actually disagree with Askeladd's thinking on this because, well, I'm very sorry to say, Knut, but if you was willing to stay behind and bury, Ragnar, you'd probably bury two with him along with everyone else because Thorkell would be the one there digging the grave because he would have caught up at that point. There's no time. Like, Askeladd's cruelty is on display, but he also has a lot of pragmatism that, like, makes him much more complicated. And this is why he's such a fascinating villain, because he's not completely black and white here. He's not just simply, going, man, like, being cruel for cruelty's sake. He has a history that, like, informs his actions and, like, builds up his, perspective on the world. And sure, when he is, like, capricious, he, he's vile. Like, the stuff he does with that guy, like, where not only is he cutting his finger, he's actually joking about it. Like, oh, your fingers are quite long. Oh my, let me cry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh dear. Like he's the fucking Joker.
Yeah, totally.
So he revels in that, But also, as Dana has said in chat, he's a realist and a pragmatist. So he's a very, very well-rounded and interesting villain. But I think that the episode is taking its time here to reestablish his cruelty, just to make that. Well, I mean, again, because we of course had the massacre of the villagers previously. But I think it's also worth just again getting that back in at this particular point.
Yeah, I mean, they've been leaning into it for a while, and the fact that you brought up. Oh, so this is an interesting thing I was thinking. You brought up Askeladd lies, right? He's a liar. Well, he has been the one heretofore that has been kind of pushing the narrative of history as a cycle of violence, and if we're beasts, you're beasts. No civilization is really legitimate because it's all because that's him. Should we really buy this account of history? Should we adopt that as well, like as wholesale truth? You know what I mean? Because maybe his account of it is incomplete, or he's just looking at the facts, and like the facts are never the story. Like, we tell stories out of the facts, right? So he's telling the story he wants to tell, but like, is it the whole story?
Well, I think maybe it's not such a question of whether or not we believe it to be true, but rather that Askeladd believes it to be true. That's his narrative in his head. That's his history, like the stuff that, involving his father and Lydia, to all the way back to the, more impersonal times with his ancestors, the Celts. So the thing is, whether or not it is true factually, he buys into it and he's willing to act on it and use it to justify his actions.
Yeah, well, I guess that you're totally right about that, but that if he's right, then that calls into question like a lot about Vinland, especially if Vinland is a place, then it's then is it really like a paradise and pure if it was just violently taken from other people? I think that could pose like a kind of existential dilemma for someone like Thorfinn if he really cares about Vinland anymore. Eventually, I think he will, but like, I think it will be important to like eschew Askeladd's seemingly true, easy to believe like narrative of what history is, like what kind of cycle it is, so that like move that aside so you can be like, look, no, there is actually a place that is not that.
Yeah. Well, that ties into the idea I've said of, Askeladd's idea, perspective on this is, well, you guys have been bad, but we will be worse. Like he says, we'll inflict even greater violence on you.
Mm.
Like that's his literal words.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas obviously the counter narrative, the thing that I hope Thorfinn eventually realizes, and it's ironically the thing that's holding him back right now, is that I've had violence committed against me. Well, not directly to him, but rather his father was killed, of course. But I can be better than that.
An extremely difficult thing to ask of a boy.
Of a lot of people, I would argue.
Of anybody, let alone a kid, So,
yeah. It's the easiest thing in the world, to be wronged and then to think, well. But the thing is, the problem with eye for an eye is that, everyone ends up blind.
True. Very true. Another thing I thought about when you were talking about Askeladd. So he makes this juxtaposition between he and Bjorn when they're talking. There's a dichotomy between a leader who's weak and can be used by other powerful people to take power, and a leader who is strong and who other powerful people want to follow because he's strong. And Askeladd wants to make Canute into the latter, but being able to make someone into the latter, doesn't that disqualify them from being like he is the former? He is moldable and weak. Yep. It's interesting. It's
maybe that's a bit of egotism on Askeladd's part.
Yeah,
because he clearly he plays by his own rules, and he says, well, I'm going to shape the kid and everyone will follow a lead they can believe in. So what he really means to say is, I can't be the king, of course, because I'm not of royal descent, but I can just basically, mold this kid into me and just let him pick up where he left off.
Totally.
That kind of thing. So even then it's just a little bit of rampant egotism from his part.
Yeah. I'll be ruling from behind the throne sort of thing. I mean, that's not what he's saying, but it's a similar kind of idea, I think. And it's just was funny to me that actually Canute would be both of those things, both of those different and diametrically opposed things. He would just be going from one to the other via Askeladd. I thought that was interesting. But that's kind of all I have this week, Shadon.
Same here. But we have a question from a patron though, so we'll cover that now.
Yeah.
This week. So this one comes from the always lovely Mirror. Shouts to you, Mirror. This one's quite simple, at least on paper anyway. Do you think Bjorn will always stay loyal to Askeladd? Simple as that. Here's the thing for me. This could just be a simple yes or no question, but to go into it a little deeper, I think that Bjorn is probably the most loyal of Askeladd's men, because he has that sense of perspective that I mentioned earlier, that he recognizes things for what they are, in all the good things Askeladd has brought, but he also recognizes the situations in front of him, you might have fucked up here potentially, you might have made a fucky wookie, as we call it.
Wow.
But, I think that, his loyalty is not infinite. I just think he has a lot more of it to call on than, say, the JoJo bros that we mentioned before, the brothers, or a lot of other people. Yeah. So I think that his loyalty is genuine, and there's plenty of it, if not more of it, than plenty of other people in Askeladd's group. But I'm going to say that I don't think it's going to be infinite. He'll probably be the last one to stand again with Askeladd's side, but if he reckons the chips are truly down, he'll probably call it a day. I don't think his loyalty completely and utterly absolute, unbreakable, but I think it's going to be very, very tough.
So my answer to this question is hard. I don't know. I'm going to try to articulate what I think. So I think he's loyal to Askeladd the person. I don't think he's loyal to the success or failure of Askeladd.
That's a great distinction. I like that a lot.
So like, I think that's why, like I said, he's been the person who's been questioning him the longest, right? Like, from way back, you know, he's been like, do you really think this is a good idea? Or like, maybe we should do something else. There was a point where I thought he was going to go against him. I can't remember the exact moment, but he was asked to do something, and there was like a really long pause where he just kind of stared at Askeladd, and then finally he did it. So I think that he can doubt Askeladd with and has done, and probably will do, and will recognize like, man, Askeladd is really fucked up here. But I think he's thrown his lot in with this guy, and I think he's the sort of character, it seems to me, that I don't know, they're like, whenever he makes a commitment that like matters to him, he's not one to easily change sides willy-nilly based on like which way the wind is blowing. So I actually think he will end up dying in Askeladd's service, because I think that they're probably about to die.
Yeah, shit's gonna happen. Shit is definitely gonna go down. But no, that's a great perspective. Like, the thing to note that I think is Bjorn's role is that it's very easy for someone who is successful to be surrounded by yes men. But the thing that often makes people successful is having that outside perspective of someone who they've got your back, but they're still critical of you in a constructive way. And that's kind of like, I would say that like the word that I would use to describe Bjorn is he's Askeladd's major domo. That's the one I would go with. I mean, sure, you know, he's all about the mushrooms and all that, and all about the mass pillage. But he's also not an idiot. He recognizes a lot of things what willing to actually like discuss with Askeladd like what his plans are. He'll still follow him, but he's not going to be completely uncritical, like, oh yes, Askeladd, let's go do this. It's a brilliant idea. Oh my!
Whatever you say, you got the brilliant ideas, boss.
I'm just a muscle. You got the right ideas, boss. I'm just eating the mushrooms. Don't mind me.
And I think Andy brings up a good point too. Like, there were scenes in earlier episodes where Bjorn wanted to know what he was thinking, and Askeladd like wouldn't tell him. And I mean, we found out that it's because he's wanted to keep all the Danes at a distance because he doesn't really care for them as a Welshman. But Bjorn is a guy who, I mean, it's interesting. Like, would his loyalty to him? I mean, I don't know if you could say it would increase anymore because like he's been loyal to a fault thus far. But like, would they have been closer? Like, would that have made things better for Askeladd or worse? Like, is part of the reason Bjorn is loyal to him to do with that mystique that he has?
Maybe Askeladd cultivates a little of that exactly reason. I mean, we've seen the power of like Forkel. He's as good as everyone says he is, but the myth of who he is alone is quite powerful. Like the legend, the way people react to him, his reputation. So Askeladd, I think himself is like cultivates a little bit of that. And in some way, like that's worked with Bjorn, but it's also proved to be his undoing with his men because they've bought too deeply into that reputation rather than the reality of it.
The luckiest man alive. He's drunk all the luck juice.
Yep. And unfortunately, Askeladd completely fucks up by deciding to go running through the mirror store in town when he, before this all happened. Whoops.
I've just crossed under 7 ladders, and about 12 black cats have crossed my path. We're good though. Let's keep marching.
Yeah. Oh well.
You've never seen the Vision of Escaflowne, but there is a short story arc where the villains believe they have in fact quantified luck and made it into a juice.
That's also the Red Dwarf joke as well, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
That's in Red Dwarf. That's the one where Rimmer becomes like possessed by a virus and starts talking with Mr. Flibble the penguin.
Oh, it's in Harry Potter also. I just now
I
remembered.
think who gives a shit about Harry Potter?
Hey! I give a shit about Harry Potter. How dare you? I'll not have you talk bad about the Wizarding World. Now, if you want to talk about the author, please feel free. The works are good.
Oh boy,
they're good.
I like to imagine that J.K. Rowling got very, very certain exam results she had when she was much younger. Like, no, I totally do that. I like, I knew the answers to that. I did write it down at the time, but I knew it. I swear. I'm like, look, so fucking what? Ain't on the paper, it don't fucking count. Tough shit. Oh, they had an intense sexual relationship, did Dumbledore and Grindelwald.
Grindelwald, yeah, it is Grindelwald.
And I'm like, oh, that's great. Are you writing fan fiction for your own works now? Maybe you should put that there in the first place, rather than hopping on the bandwagon of whatever's, currently, socially acceptable. Just saying,
Yeah, this is like one instance where, if only that person had stayed off Twitter. If only.
What J.K. Rowling needed was to hire someone whose entire job was just simply to slap her phone out of her every time she was using it for any phone.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, there are plenty of people on this planet, probably myself included, who could probably use someone like that. Maybe that should be a career path. Who knows? All right. But anyway, that's the only Patreon question we had today. So, thank you very much, Mira, for throwing that out there.
Thank you, Mira.
If you would like to get involved on asking those questions, you can do so by coming into our Discord, which means becoming a patron. Do that for as little as $2 a month. Gives you access to a load of great new content that we've got currently already in the bank and actually on the way very soon. So yeah, do feel check that out at patreon.com/Warui Deshou.
Yes, indeed. But before we go, though, since we've done our Patreon question, can we check in on the polls from this week?
We can indeed. Just 2 for this week, though, so far. So, episode 16, poll 1. After being slapped by Askeladd, do you think Canute realizes or intuits the truth of Ragnar's death? 60% say yes and 40% say no. So we've got a bit of both. And now it's time for episode 16, poll 2. What is the standard 4-kel diet per day? 29% said 2 bears. 43% said 24 chickens eaten whole. 14% said 3 cows and 2 pigs. And the last one, which I'm surprised hasn't got more votes because I just imagine it in my head and it's one of the funniest things ever.
Okay.
1 angry goose, 14%. Because all I want to imagine is just 4-kel running around in the way chasing after a goose who's going honk honk.
Is it the untitled goose?
Yes. In fact, someone make me fan art of 4-kel chasing the goose in the Untitled Goose Game in that particular, art style. I reckon that would be incredible.
If that goose can show up, if the goose can show up in End of Evangelion, he can show up in Vinland Saga.
Oh, good times. But yeah, feel free to check out those polls. Put thoughts in there if you've not already done so. They'll be running for the entire week.
That's right. At Warui Deshou on Twitter to participate. Here we go, though. We're going to rate the episode. Shadon, how do you rate this episode?
Well, much the same as the last one, actually, in that, we're seeing the progression of the plot now, finally. Like, things are actually happening rather than being more thesis statements. Like, there's time and place for those, certainly, but we're actually seeing, relationships shift and, the board being reshuffled, with, changing allegiances and alliances. So things are starting to really, really heat up, and I appreciate that because, like I say, my plays previously still kind of stand of, I wish the middle part had moved at a more brisk pace. So that's good. But it isn't losing sight of those thesis statements, all those morals or, themes that Vinland Saga has. And it's exploring them in new ways and showing us, different shades to the characters and offering us different lenses towards the same thing. So it's really, really well fleshed out. And again, props to the episode for having both great musical cues, particularly with the one around, as I think Andy mentioned, the music that plays when Canute is slapped, or the music in the hut where Ragnar's body lies, and also the excellent use of body language to help communicate more naturalistic, dialogue and conversation between characters, where their reactions not based strictly on what they're saying, but rather the reactions to, how people are emoting. So there's a lot of really, really good stuff in this episode, and I don't really have many complaints beyond just simply some stiffness of animation or some bits where they, again, cut a couple of corners, but so what? I'm not a Saga guy, so I'd rather you do a good script than anything else. And it's certainly, getting back to the standard I saw in early in the show. So with all that said, I'm going to rate it slightly lower than the last episode I rated. I will give this episode 4.25 human kebabs out of 5.
All right, I'm going to restart the call because I heard everything you said, but it's veering into the robos. So I'm going to restart. Just waiting on Shadon. Whoops. He's 2 squares circling each other. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, there he is. He's back.
I'm a beautiful thing as well. I'll just call you.
Yeah,
just call you on that. Just throw it out there. Don't be throwing shade on me. Don't. I know it's my name and all that, but come on.
No. I'm gonna go the same rating as you. Just 4.25. Because I thought it was really good, but I don't know. There just wasn't that signature great moment for me to hang on to.
Do you want them to kill Ragnar again?
Yes, I would like that more. All right. I'm going to try restarting the call one more time just because your face is frozen. But if we can't get it, we're almost done. We're just trying to power through the last bit here. Gonna restart the video call. Maybe next episode I'll let you start the call so you can post on your side. So okay, but 4.25. Illegitimate civilizations out of 5.
Excellent.
I think that's going to do it for this week for episode 16 of Vinland Saga. Stream of Thought. Thanks for hanging out with us. Shadon, where can people find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Shadon1010. You can hit me up with anything that you like. Except for a Keegan fan art, Shield Hero fan art, and fan art of other stuff that I would literally rather, stick a rabid hedgehog in my eye than look at.
Don't show me any of those things either. At the Subtle Doctor on Twitter, and also in our Discord, which we've plugged already. But please, we would love to see you around. If you are a patron and haven't been in the Discord, we would highly encourage you. It's there for you. There's a lot of cool people there. We play games on the weekends together. We chat, hang out. There's a lot of cool and interesting people. So that's another incentive for you to become a Warui Deshou patron. But if you're not able to and you can't support us financially, we're fine with that too. We appreciate your listenership, your fandom, either way. But if you still like to help us, you can write a review for us on Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on SoundCloud, share our stuff there, subscribe on YouTube, click the bell to be notified when our stuff drops. You can, follow on Twitter also, and Twitch, where we're streaming now. At Warui.
Is that the call going out now, or is that just you malfunctioning?
That's just me. Just Google Warui Deshou. We're there. And having said all that mouthful, let me take the time to just say thank you, everyone, for hanging out. Thank you, everyone, for watching on demand, listening on your podcast player of choice. We've got Kabukicho Sherlock coming up soon.
More like Sher Croc.
Heyo! Oh man, a sheer croc. Oh man.
I have my moments.
That's good. That's good. We got that coming up. But Oh, we also have some more cool content that's going to drop quite soon.
Indeed, I will be working on it pretty much immediately after this call concludes. Tokyo Godfathers is imminent, folks. It is recorded in full. It just needs editing and a little touch of music, a little bit of, a little bit of sprinkle on the top, get it all nice and polished up. Exactly. But otherwise, you can expect it this week.
That's right. Tokyo Godfathers audio essay by Mr. Shadon coming out.
Oh, hell yes.
For all you lovely patrons.
Indeed. And then I'll be starting work on my next project, the Mystery Shit Show. That also features Christmas, by the way, but that's the only hint I'm giving you.
Well, look, with all that glorious content on the horizon, you have no reason not to tune in. Until we are in your ears or on your screen next, from Shadon, this is the Subtle Doctor saying, embrace each other, everyone, to the ends of the universe.
Good night.